come in so they pick up your order. We didn't know you was a DoorDash.
I'm not a DoorDash.
It says a DoorDash.
It's okay.
It says DoorDash.
Yeah, that's not his order. I just mistyped that one.
Thank you. Not a DoorDash, bitch. What the fuck? Hey. What's up, Midwest? You on the road? I ain't ever gonna get. Oh shit, this thing's heading out to the detox to fix something real quick. And once again, the lawnmower's fixed, so we'll see when we get home. Not done? Sorry. I'm just 45-minute drive out to Green Springs. Turn this thing I was watching back on. Here we go.
So if you would like to reclaim your online privacy while supporting my channel, go to order, click the link down in the description to get a 14-day trial and see how much of your personal information has been doxed by data. Before getting into the meat and bones of today's tragedy, I think it would be a good idea to get some background lore on the stadium itself. Our story begins in Sheffield, when in 1899, Sheffield Wednesday FC needed to get a new plot of land to play football on. Their original patch, known as the Olive Grove, was on land that was needed to expand railway lines. As such, the football club was without a football pitch. This becomes a surprise.
They call it a patch.
As a matter of fact,
sounds like he's saying patch, but it's a pitch.
Needs a football pitch to play football. Lest they end up playing somewhere else, like a McDonald's drive-thru or inside your walls. A solution to this problem presented itself when James Willis Dixon, J. Dixon and Sons, an old money silversmithing company that quite literally helped kick off the Industrial Revolution, offered the team 4 hectares of land at Owlerton in the northwest of the city. Why give the football club a large chunk of land? Well, probably because back then, industrial tycoons and magnates of the day actually cared about their local community. Or they just wanted to pad their nose along. Or more realistically, they just didn't have a use for the land and they wanted the bureaucracy of it out of their hands. Either way, Sheffield Wednesday FC got their land for their new stadium, creatively called Owlerton Stadium. It remained known as Owlerton Stadium until 1919, when it was renamed to Hillsborough Stadium, after some gerrymandering that resulted in the stadium technically falling into the brand new Hillsborough constituency.
A little bit filling? Sounds delicious though. Whatever that was last night looked good too with the onions on it.
Because it's all a bunch of who played who stuff that I frankly really couldn't care less about. This timeline skimming brings us to 1989, when the Football Football Association, the British governing body for all things football related, the Football Feds, needed
Football
a
Feds.
neutral venue to host the semi-finals for the FA Cup between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. So, of course, as you expected, Hillsborough Stadium...
Oh, 18-ounce away? Yeah, look good.
Set, fans and spectators readied themselves for the occasion, presumably stocking up on booze and sing-song slurs to hurl at the opposing team's fans. A proud British tradition. If you haven't heard at least 6 different choruses claiming that you in fact have sex with sheep, then it's just not a traditional game of British football. So the big day arrives and fans and onlookers descend upon Sheffield with snacks, race clash, kicker men kicking that ball kicking them. I know, I clearly have a vast knowledge of football. Fans began to gather in Sheffield's town centre at around overall being described as one of carnival, good humour and expectation. At the back of 2 p.m, we see the fans starting to make their way into the stadium, with mostly Nottingham Forest boys being the early birds and getting the worm. They're set to inhabit the east of the stadium, whilst the Liverpool supporters get west. This is very important for what happens later. The first batch of about 350 Liverpool supporters arrive later at 2:20 p.m, with the rest of them getting delayed due to roadworks on the M62 motorway. An important note is at the stadium, far more Liverpool fans turned up than Nottingham Forest fans. Even already, the authorities knew that something was off. At around 2:30 p.m, there was a disproportionately large number of spectators trying to get into the stadium outside of the turnstiles facing Leppings Lane, a small stretch of road that feeds into the perimeter gates before going into a tunnel that funnels into the stadium's western pens. Or, in layman's terms, the entire west of the stadium only had a narrow strip of road as its entryway, which meant that it would be very, very cramped, even under ideal circumstances. This resulted in pens 3 and 4 being disproportionately overfilled with people. BBC commentator John Watson noticed this irregularity and did his job, commentating on it whilst pointing a camera at it.
There's gaps, you know, in parts of the ground. Well, you look at the Liverpool end to the right of the goal. There's hardly anybody on those steps. No, to the right of there. That's it. Look down there.
The issue was that not only were the lanes congested with spectators who were trying to get in, there was also people whose tickets were damaged or scuffed and not able to use.
La versus L.
People who didn't even have tickets and they were just going to try their luck, who were then turning around and trying to leave. But as they tried to leave, they were instead either squished against the sides or forced further into the tunnel with this massive tidal wave of people through into the pens. This is what is often referred to as a human crush, and it is in fact not very ideal for any sort of sporting environment because human crushes are extremely dangerous events that must be stopped the moment you see one that's starting to happen. It shouldn't shock you that this is not the first time that Leppings Lane has hosted a crush before. It's happened on a few separate occasions, as a matter of fact. This was made even worse when a supposedly large group of Liverpool fans without tickets showed up and tried to enter the stadium via Leppings Lane. I do somewhat doubt this.
That's fucking nuts. It figures.
We'll get into that later. Why were so many people let in? Well, this was the first of many, many fuck-ups that led to this.
They're after our kid.
Was in full swing, with men, women and children pressed against the steel fencing of the pen.
For sure.
Trampled underneath these sheer massive bodies.
It's just weird around this area. So I'll be out by Cleveland or Pittsburgh, I don't have any issues.
Deploying to get over the fences.
Some kind of weird interference.
Into the upper pens. Now, there are lots of pictures and footage of this crush happening, but I'm going to be very, very limited in what we show in this video, because at some points you can see people who are dead, but they are still standing upright because their bodies can't fall over due to the crush, because they're still being held up by everyone else around them. So when you look at the videos and pictures, you can actually spot who is dead. It is extremely distressing, so we're going to try and not show that stuff. But still be warned, the footage that we are going to show in this video is still extremely fucked up. So, just a heads up. At 3:04 PM, Liverpool's Peter Beardsley narrowly missed it. The excitement of the near score caused a large chunk of the fans in the crush to lunge forward, either in excitement or in presumed mania. This resulted in the waist-high metal fences throughout the pen to warp and buckle, which caused the people lunging to fall over, which, as you can imagine, in a highly compact flesh pit like that, it means that the second you fall, everyone else in a 5-meter radius around you falls as well.
tranny.
Trust me, you do not want to be at the bottom of those dominoes when they fall. Some of the police present see the front fence literally warp with thousands of people being pressed against it, frantically trying to get into safety. And in the police's infinite wisdom, they conclude that this isn't people trying to survive, this must be a pitch invasion. So the police apparently started trying to push people back into the pens, not realising just how fucking wrong they got the situation. I mean, you were no more than 10 feet from people who were smooshed against the fence, to the point of the fence itself literally warping, screaming at you, pleading to please open the gate. And you just decide, damn, they must really want to get through this fence. Better not let
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Great. I mean, there's shock from witnessing a traumatizing situation, and then there's that.
Nothing surprises me anymore with this
The South Yorkshire police
fucked up world.
finally managed to realise, judging by the looks on these people's faces, looks of absolute fucking terror, that this might not be a pitch invasion. These look a lot more like people who are trying to...
I don't know if it's completely lost, but it's definitely on the way.
The police tried to end the match by running onto the field and getting the referees in. And for once, something like that actually worked, with the match being called off just 5 minutes after kickoff. By this point, it was a mad scramble for the police.
I'm heading out to do a quick computer repair.
On the pitch, whilst contending with the reasonably rising panic in the pens. As people managed to get lifted out, most proceeded to try and organise themselves to help the wounded to the ambulances, which by this point were finally managing to get onto the pitch. The only catch was that there weren't enough stretchers for all of the people that needed ferrying. So we had cases of spectators lifting other spectators to the ambulances on torn pieces of advertising boards. However, yet another issue had presented itself sadly. On top of the lack of organisation and the delayed response, most of the ambulances couldn't even get onto the pitch to begin with most ambulances sitting outside of the stadium, frantically trying to get the injured outside, which was very, very difficult since most of the exits where the injured were completely packed with people in a human crush. And just like that, within a couple of hours of fans arriving at the stadium, 95 people were dead, with non-fatal injuries estimated to be at 766. Of those who were fortunate enough to survive this event, there were those who were maimed, traumatised and scarred. Some people were even put into comas, and there were some who were clinically brain dead in the following years, alongside those who couldn't cope with the trauma that they had witnessed and sadly resorted to suicide. This was the single largest loss of human life in British football history, and this video should have just ended here. But as we're now going to get into, Hillsborough is sadly not just remembered for the disaster itself. So, what the hell went wrong? Well, it could only be described as a perfect storm of negligence, incompetency, and even as we'll see, a good chunk of malice. We should start with the crux of the issue. the police, who were disjointed at best and were outright hostile at worst. This was down to multiple factors. First of all, command was changed from the previously experienced and totally professional Brian L. Moore to the newly promoted and completely green David Duckenfield, who had, quote, very little, if any, training or experience in organising a large event like this. And it showed, because police presence in the Leppings Lane was virtually non-existent beyond a handful of plainclothes bobbies and a few cavalrymen mixed in with the walkers. They didn't actually make much of an effort at all to disperse and redistribute the crowds in the lane, and they allowed the crowds to just continue pushing inside, even while they could hear everyone inside screaming.
Well, yeah, I would just do a factory reset. What version of Windows is it? Yeah, I would back all her stuff up on a thumb drive or something, but
drivers just sat inside their ambulances twiddling their thumbs while people inside were still being crushed and dying, because the ambulances didn't get told if they were supposed to go in and ferry the injured out, or if the injured were going to be brought to them. So they just sort of
not necessarily all of them.
Waiting for orders.
It depends on which version of Windows it is.
The story doesn't end there. It gets worse, because of course it gets gets fucking worse. As if gross police.
And if it was an elderly person that had it before, I would just save everything on a thumb drive and do a factory reset. That way you have a fresh install of Windows.
That's right, my guys. The South Yorkshire Police, who had the fucking gall to blame this.
If it's 10, Windows 10 or above, just all you gotta do is search reset from the right next to the window.
Actions challenge, fucking impossible. Yes, seriously.
Oh.
The police blamed the police claimed that the side gate that was open on the turnstiles was actually broken open by a brazen youth or malicious footy fanatic that caused a tidal wave of ticketless heathens to flood the stadium. And during the immediate aftermath, the media just ate that up. Because, of course, the media were eager to spread lies far and wide. That's their job. And this famously resulted in an article from The Sun, ironically titled The Truth. The Truth claimed that the event goers were actively scrapping with the police throughout the disaster, that they were doing shit like rugby tackling PCs whilst they were trying to resuscitate unconscious victims, and that the Liverpool fans were rifling through and pickpocketing the dead. Which sounds absolutely horrible if it weren't for the fact that the entire thing was being broadcasted live on television and there were cameras literally fucking everywhere. Literally every single moment of the entire thing was caught on multiple cameras from multiple angles, and you can see for yourself that none of that shit happened. Look, it's mainstream media. It's the scorpion and the frog. It's just their nature. Now, surely there is no way that people could reasonably buy into this actually ridiculous amount of slander. Well, they did, but there is a reason for that. Football fans back in the day, especially in the 80s, had a bit of a reputation for rowdy, violent, and overall belligerent behaviour. They do still so negative public image. And the police were the more eager, convenient scapegoat to obfuscate and deflect from their own fuck-up. You know, jangling the threatening aura of the eternal gammon of public. But it just keeps going, because immediately after the disaster, inquests into the deaths were opened, hoping to bring the officers present to some form of token justice. Only the inquests were suddenly shut down for 7 whole months later on November the 19th. only for the coroner attached to the case, he's Dr. Stephen Popper, to turn around and only entertain claims did do their jobs properly and actually responded to emergency
That's awesome.
situation on time in the right manner. So basically, it was a clever piece of bureaucratic fuckery that made every death before 3:15 p.m. not the police's fault. How incredibly convenient. So it shouldn't be surprising in the slightest when the families of the victims and the surviving victims themselves weren't exactly pleased with anything in this case. Imagine being the family of a victim who died, going through the harrowing ordeal of coping with your loved one, getting suffocated beneath a horde of people.
That is pretty awesome, and that's very generous of you, R&R.
Went wrong, only for the coroner to initially deny your request, and then a few months later turn around and essentially say, yeah, they were dead before the police could do anything about it. Sorry. And the kicker? Well, apparently the coroner
Why do you keep saying that?
rather chummy with the upper crust of the police, you know, hosting dinner parties and such. I love how everyone in the police and government is just such good friends with each other, you know, just what are the chances? And it just keeps on going, because do you remember how I suggested that the senior police officials present during the disaster were wholly incompetent? You know, after all, they bungled basically every duty they were set to perform. Well, it turns out shockingly that people actually agreed. So cue the Taylor Report, also known as the Hillsborough Stadium Disaster Inquiry Report. It was, as the name suggests, an inquiry released in January of 1990 meant to look into the disaster by the Lord Justice Baron Taylor of Gosforth. That is to say, he was substantially higher.
Yeah, for sure, man. Take care of yourself and your family first.
And he was used in
I appreciate anybody's generosity on my main channel there, but for sure, man, make sure you're taking care of yourself first.
But also of the abysmal state of the stadium itself, like how the gates, pen fences and crush barriers were all found to be severely corroded and deformed. And how Sheffield Wednesday, the owners of the stadium, were told in the past to get the stadium done up before another match, because this wasn't the first time that Hillsborough had experienced a crush. Remember how I mentioned that earlier in the video?
Well, it's generous of you, but still, please,
in 1981,
spread it, you know? Spread it to the ones you like.
There were human
I'm not telling you not to do that, you know, anything. I'm just telling you.
not even a year before this one, and they still thought, nah, it will be fine.
It's your funds.
It was a surprise to absolutely none of you that the conclusion to the report, in no uncertain terms, lays the burden of responsibility squarely on the shoulders of the South Yorkshire Police and Sheffield Wednesday, with it saying, and I quote, policing on 15th April broke down. And that is putting it lightly, to say the least. Alongside tearing into the actions or inactions of the police and Sheffield Wednesday that day, the report also presented a series of recommendations on how to avoid this sort of situation from ever happening again. Despite the light words in the report, the consequences of this were staggering. Have you ever wondered why all major stadiums in Britain are seated only? Well, it's probably in part because of this report, as a massive number of stadiums in the country became seating only as a result of this paper. Don't get it twisted, however, because the Taylor Report isn't the only paper that was released on this footy fuck.
Yeah, I agree. I wish you could do that too whenever I'm gifting.
20th anniversary, the Hillsborough.
Because a lot of times people that have just barely ever been in the channel end up getting it. It's completely random.
For sure. It was basically the British government reopening.
I've gotten memberships in channels that I haven't been to in months.
I mean, the previously sealed footage was unearthed and released to the public, including the BBC sports commentary footage that we've been using throughout this video. Naturally, the hit was a much broader scale.
Although it does kind of bring me back to look at the channel. Yeah, loyalty should be rewarded.
Data on hand, and its findings were shockingly near identical to that of the Taylor.
And you know, YouTube knows that. They know. I mean, you know, with Streamlabs, you could tell, you know, the
police
hours.
Statements
But
mention of drunken hooligans kicking in the fence and causing
But YouTube won't do it that way. I mean, it should literally just look at that hours viewed. It should be in that order if they don't already have their own membership.
But the hip didn't. They still
I so much want to give Chopper a membership.
to the alcohol club, and they inadvertently found instead even more shady shit that the police had done. They found that the police not only had
good luck with that.
individual police statements collected that day, altered so as not to reflect poorly on the police, but they also found out that the police went out of their way to administer blood alcohol tests on all of the victims' bodies, including the children.
Yeah. Just don't give them. I don't even view them anymore, man.
Dead children's bodies to see if they were drunk, so that the police could shift the blame onto the dead children.
And Midwest, I didn't even know that about that one individual.
How much you hate the police, it's not enough. Speaking of the victims' bodies, potentially in response to the HIP's bombshell release, the High Court ordered a fresh new inquest to be partook in order to try and actually get a lucid look into the fates of these unfortunate souls. They found that 41 of the 95 victims could have been saved if the police were...
I can say I'm loving the videos Havoc's been putting out, though. That's fucking awesome. Hilarious.
The inquest labelled all 95 victims as being unlawfully killed. Ergo, not an accident. Now for a curveball. One police constable by the name of Maxwell Groom claimed that there was a conspiracy afoot involving a large chunk of the police, involving intrigue, guile, and wits, all to shift the blame of this disaster onto Superintendent...
Let me know. I'll try and join you in the panel.
Fuck knows, I don't really care, but the supposed mastermind behind this devilish plot is none other than Duckenfield, the inexperienced officer who was overseeing all police activities on that fateful day. Because you see, Duckenfield was a Freemason. Look, there's not been any mention of any three-letter agencies so far, so instead we obviously have to shift onto some other shadowy cabal of esoteric elites. I don't know if that conspiracy is true, but Duckenfield...
We've had plenty of rain, so...
member of his local Masonic lodge.
Hopefully by the time I get home, my lawn will be done enough to where...
Freemasons were actually forbidden from partaking in the investigation from...
I'll be able to cut the grass this evening.
So, a rather large amount of police officers, investigators, prosecutors, judges, etc., were not allowed to take...
Yeah, I'm tired of that shit myself. That's why I even said anything to begin with on Farlap's comment.
Speaking of Duckenfield, he was sued by...
Speaking of him, I have not seen him in a while.
...another officer in the year 2000.
Hey, Jody!
Admitting to lying about the causes of the disaster and the immediate aftermath, he was found not guilty on account of a hung jury. So, Duckenfield got away with it. Except, all no, because he was sued again in 2017 for 95 counts of manslaughter by gross negligence. The case was long and grueling, dragging on for over 2 years, with the result being not guilty.
I haven't been streaming a whole lot lately, so
It's not like
he usually joins in my main channel when I am. I think I'm gonna stream from the main channel on the way home from here.
Consequences, there was indeed a reckoning for some of those responsible after the HIP's debut, with Sheffield Wednesday FC
finally getting a haircut tomorrow on my fuzzy head.
Convicted under the Safety at Sports Grounds Act. How long did he get put away for? Not a fucking clue. I mean, for fuck's sake, the fact that he was the only one of those guys to actually get convicted is infuriating enough as it is, but, you know, at least give us the catharsis of a number. But, regardless, will it be enough? No, probably not, but at least it's better than nothing. One of the most shocking things about the aftermath of the Hillsborough disaster is how few of the people responsible for it were actually held responsible. So, where does that leave us today? What is the legacy of the Hillsborough disaster? Well, the only way that I can really describe the tone and sentiment around it is It's the football fans' equivalent to Ruby Ridge or Waco. A tragic loss of human life that was caused by the police that was not only completely avoidable, but also remembered for its governmental murkiness alongside its victims. The survivors of that day live on with the past on the
You think Northwoods is doing that for subs?
Institutions that failed them and their loved ones. It was a tragedy that could have been avoided if the police just did their jobs, which is sadly a very common trend in this country.
Now crew cuts are the thing, man. I will say I keep my hair shorter now than I ever did, even when I was in the Army. Except for basic, of course, they shave you bald, but... That's ridiculous. Yeah, the mountain people. The mountain people, I like that.
Welcome once again to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
I might start a scoring system and say, well, here's a story we hear like once a year. Here's a story we hear like once a month, that kind of thing. Because this story here, I think happens about once a year. I've done several videos about stories just like this. Just different people, different casinos, different outcomes. So here's a story out of the New York Post recently. Tony and James both
or
said
extra.
much. Lauren Elkins.
Either less or extra.
Gambler, 72 years old, says Atlantic City Casino won't pay out $2.5 million slot machine.
Yeah, that's where I got my nickname.
Yes, what's the use of playing them? New Jersey woman said she won over $2 million, at least according to the machine, on an Atlantic City slot machine. But the casino isn't coughing up the dough, leaving her very anxious about being unable to help her homeless son. So she's 72 years old and says she hit big on a Wheel of Fortune slot machine at the casino in February. But when she went to collect her winnings, the casino claimed the jackpot was due to a technical glitch and therefore didn't count. She told the Post on Saturday, I just feel it's not right that they don't pay out. What's the use of playing them? After losing $1,000 on various machines that day, she revisited the Wheel of Fortune slot machine. When she gave it another 6 or 7 spins, she said she hit the jackpot. So she got the words wild and wild by 2 and spin on a diagonal on the slot area, which entitled her to a free spin on the Wheel of Fortune wheel on top of the machine. Now, I'll admit, I don't know how this machine works. Most of these things are digital. You press a button and a bunch of things happen on a screen. But it seems to me that if there's a second step, and the first step appears to be completed and it allows you to do the second step, it's, I think, a little harder to claim it was a malfunction. But after spinning the wheel, ended up on the word jackpot with a $sign. And she said she heard the words, you won.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
3D gold coins came out and a blue light went off. Blue light special. And then the people...
Yeah, don't fuck with Crofty.
Oh my God. This guy says, lady, you're a millionaire. A millionaire. But when she used the call button to summon help, a tilt message popped up, indicating the machine was unplayable due to an error or malfunction. But she says it popped up after she played. And of course, tilt is a reference to pinball machines, because if you were trying to body English on the machine that is whacking it to get the ball to roll a little differently, machines would often let you do it a little bit. If you did too much, it would go tilt and it would shut off for that ball. Casino employee told her she did not win, and then he told her to leave the casino. Now, here's the thing. I know people who work in the hospitality industry. Hotel management, restaurant management, that kind of thing. And I think...
All right, brother, get some shut-eye.
When you have somebody who thinks...
Probably catch you later.
And even if they haven't, you shouldn't say, yeah, can you get off the property? You, off our property right now. No. Now, I don't know exactly what tone they used, but the sentence here that I'm reading from the New York Post says, an employee told her she didn't win before telling her to leave the casino. So she has an attorney now, because of course she does. He's preparing a legal complaint against the casino and its gaming company, which apparently is separate from them. And they're suing for $2.56 million because she hit a $1.28 million jackpot with a multiplier. And of course, you multiply 1.28 times 2, and I think you get 2.56. I don't have a calculator in front of me, okay? In addition, he plans to file a $1 million plus emotional distress claim because he said this whole thing is kind of working on her nerves. And meanwhile, the woman herself says that she is very anxious. I'm upset because I want the money and I'll help people with it, she said. Those people include her son who's homeless. She'd like to buy him a place to stay. But the casino is saying it's not their fault, it's the fault of the gaming company that puts the machines in. So the casino has no comment on this incident as we're only the casino who houses the machine, the spokesperson said. Another company handles the payouts and would be best to get a comment from at this time. So here's the problem. You walk into a casino, and I don't spend a lot of time in casinos, but I've walked through a few. In fact, I often park in the parking deck of a casino in Detroit when I run the Detroit Free Press Marathon in the fall, and routinely park in the parking deck and then cut through the casino because it's one of the ways you get down to the street. So I've also been inside casinos in Vegas, for instance. So I know what they look like. And so when you're walking through the casinos, you see all these machines. You don't think, oh boy, I'm in this casino, but those machines belong to somebody else. You would assume, I would think rightly so, that the machines are owned by the casino and they're the ones who are taking your money, they're the ones who are paying you if you win. I mean, when you go play blackjack, does the casino own that table, or does that belong to somebody else also? Do the casino workers work for the casino? I mean, I'm starting to question everything. Spokesperson for the gaming company told the Post it is cooperating with the casino operator's investigation of this matter. Now, the state of New Jersey has a casino control commission. That's the independent licensing authority of New Jersey's casinos. They did not immediately respond to request a comment. But the attorney points out that it is the casino that says, come to our casino, play our machines. Come to our casino, play someone else's machines. No, they don't say that. Information that there's a third-party contract. Ultimately, the casino should be responsible. He says they can't hide behind his other company. So, if you point out that the woman, who's, again, 72 years old, had a heart attack a year ago, and said she's hoping and praying she gets the money before she dies. And, that's kind of a sad end there. But, we've talked about this before, and every time I mention slot machines, one or two people who apparently have deep knowledge in how they operate. So I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay? But in the old days, talk about the old days, one-armed bandits, okay? There's a handle on the side, and you pull it down, and you release it. And then it would cause these actual physical wheels to spin. And if the wheels lined up just right, the machine would pay you on the spot. And the payoffs would obviously not be millions of dollars when you put a dollar in the machine, because it couldn't hold a million coins. So the mechanical machines that we all knew how they operated, but occasionally they could malfunction. Like maybe one of the machine wheels would break and come off or something. Who knows? The machines can break. So if the machine breaks, obviously you think, okay, I can understand the casino saying that's not a win, because these things just line up and this last wheel is like cockeyed or something. I don't know. But these digital machines are basically a screen. Oftentimes they do simulate the spinning wheels, but because they're digital and video and all this stuff, they can flash different colors, all kinds of cool, funky stuff, right? And so the weird part is that I've heard so many stories now from people saying the machine says if you get this, you win. And that popped up in a row, and they go, oh, I win. And somebody walks over and goes, no, the machine malfunctioned. And you're like, wait a second. It's not like the handle broke because the machine hasn't got a handle. It's not like one of the wheels fell off the spindle because there are no physical wheels and there is no spindle. What exactly is the malfunction? And the weird part, as we pointed out before, and somebody's already put this in the comments below, so I know how far I'm into the video, I know how far I can see the clock right here. Somebody has already typed the phrase, how come they can cancel your win, but they'll never come over to you when you lose and go, oops, you accidentally lost. Here, have some money.
I haven't even been on the internet
So the errors
all day today, and I was working. I was so busy yesterday, I didn't have time. I will. I'll check them out.
This machine doesn't pay $1 million every spin. Obviously not. It wouldn't make sense. So for it to make money and occasionally pay $1 million,
What area is he from?
Where
are they from?
More than that to pay it out one time, at least over a period of time, on some level. If there was one or two times, and that was as random as the one or two times that people won when they shouldn't have, that would be highly unlikely to ever happen either. Happens. I don't think in the history of gaming, anybody from a casino has ever gone and found somebody and said, excuse me, sir, madam, you were playing a game earlier today, and it said you lost. We discovered that was due to an error. Therefore, here, you won some money. There you go. No, they've never done that. Never. Some casinos should do it once and advertise it just to get rid of that argument. Listen, walk up to a guy who was playing a slot machine that could have paid off a $5 bet. Say, hey, you were playing that.
I thought all grand juries were citizens. I'm not sure what that means.
And some identification, so we can later document and prove that we did this in case anybody ever asks. But we'll see what happens. The one thing I can tell you that's going to hurt or help, depending on who's right here, is, I'm sure you know, everything in the casino is on camera. Everything. There are eyes in the sky all over, and they got everything from every angle. So I'm assuming that they preserved all of the video of this incident, because I'm willing to bet you that where that woman was standing, there are at least 3 cameras on her. And she probably shows up in the background of 10 more. But there's going to be at least 1 camera showing exactly what happened. And so there you go. It shouldn't be that difficult. So I've always been kind of hopeful that somebody would get one of these cases in front of a jury and force the gaming company or the casino, whoever's on the hook, to explain how it is that the machine can say, you've won. They go, oh, that was a mistake. And now here's the thing. I remember reading a case a couple of years ago about a woman who was playing a machine, and it was one of the ones with the elaborate screens with all the funky things happening on it. And something happened on the screen where it like went either all black or all blue, like the blue screen of death in the old days, Windows 95. And
shit,
it
that
did
still
say
happens.
something, but then like a blue wheel started spinning, and I think it may have started making the click of death. It may have started making that click noise that zip drives used to make. And somebody walked over and goes, yeah, the machine's obviously malfunctioning. And she says, yes, but at one point it said something. And they're like, well, but the machine's malfunctioning. It's freaking out. Who knows? I can kind of understand that, where the machine clearly is malfunctioning. You simply grab anybody and, excuse me, is this machine malfunctioning according to your, like what you see? Yes, it is. Okay. I kind of understand that. But here she says it showed a row of things, says she got a spin. Something.
All right, guys.
Then she spun.
I'll do a stream from the main channel on the way home. I got to run in here real quick. They're texting me about bullshit. All right, so thanks for hanging out. I'll check you out later. Peace. Love you.